Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody out there, regardless of what the condition is, everybody with an invisible condition to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are not alone. And I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest today. Nicholas Harris is his name, and he's a tech innovator and entrepreneur who is kind of bringing the worlds together, the AI worlds and the personal health world together. AI and personal health. Who knew, right? Inspired by his experience battling postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. That is a mouthful. POTS. Let's just call it POTS. POTS for short. Nicholas recognized AI's potential to revolutionize health, and it already has. It's so crazy how much, right? Like telehealth, all the things. It's already here it's a slow, expensive healthcare system usually, right? And so he's trying to change that, and I love it. Nicholas is a CTO of Formulai, a genomics and AI wellness startup, which just blows my mind. He's going to have to explain that. I don't even know what that means. That is at the forefront of developing accessible, personalized health technologies. This stuff's going to blow your mind. I can't wait. Nick is also the author of Elevate Your Health with AI, Practical Strategies for Biohacking Mental Health and Chronic Diseases, which is awesome, which gives insights for optimizing well-being, really. I mean, is what the book is about. So Nicholas is passionate about shaping a future where AI becomes a powerful ally. A lot of people are talking negative about AI right now because people are using it for crazy stuff. It can be an ally, and that's what we're working towards. So I can't wait for you to meet him. Let's bring him on. Hey, good morning, Nick. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for being here and being willing to get the word out here.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff. No, it really is an honor to be on this show. And your tagline, it's not all in your head. That's something that I personally resonate with, having gone through the multiple doctors and the delayed diagnosis it took to find what I have and all the medical gaslighting along the way. But beauty is AI is always there to listen and to give you reassurance. And it is very validating to hear a second opinion, even if it is from a fake person, that, a fake chatbot that doesn't exist. That alone, I think, is a huge benefit.
No, totally. It sounds so weird to hear it said like that, but it's true. I mean, if you can get a second opinion that's valid and valuable and actually has some weight behind it, that's coming from then what difference does it make where it comes from? Whether it's somebody in a white coat that's standing in front of you or somebody online, right? So it's awesome. It's fascinating. So,
and it's debatable how valid its opinion is now. It's getting better every day, but it's and I'll maybe get into this later in the show, but almost every head-to-head study, GPT-4 versus a doctor, in terms of diagnosing rare diseases, GPT-4 has outperformed it. So if it's not already valid, it certainly will be in the future.
Holy smokes. Well, because GPT-4 is kind of like, that's, to me, that's kind of new on the scene. Like, I've been using the, that version for better part of a year, working on different things. And it's been really helpful in a lot of areas, but I didn't realize 4 was out and accessible to everybody without having to pay for it. So that's pretty exciting for anybody that doesn't know. For what is it? 4.0 or what did you say it was?
Yeah, so GPT 4.0 is free
4.0.
on for everyone. You have to have an account, but other than that, it's a free account. You just sign up.
Yeah, I love that, because 4 is like, that's what I was hoping that would happen, is that 4 would become free someday, because I didn't really want to pay for it, but
Yeah.
now that it's free, I've kind of dabbled a little bit in it. It's crazy. So, well, I mean, this is fascinating. I can't wait. And everybody out there, like, if you have questions, I mean, we're going to be talking about POTS a lot today too. I mean, because that's the invisible condition that Nick is living with, and that's kind of goes hand in hand with the AI stuff. But how he figured it out and everything. But if you have questions about either one, reach out. If you're watching on Facebook, comment, reach out, ask a question. If you're watching on YouTube, same thing. So, I mean, don't be shy. We're here to answer your questions, and we can do that through email or messaging or whatever. So, so tell me first. Let's start at the beginning. Can you share with us just the journey with the POTS, and like, when was the diagnosis, and how did that come about, and how did you get diagnosed, and how did that kind of impact you?
Yeah, so I have like an unusual case of POTS, because it's a very clear onset where you were hospitalized for Epstein-Barr or some, even long COVID. It's very clear this was the trauma, and now you have residual autonomic dysfunction. For me, I was a high schooler. I was in every sport that I could play, and I slowly started realizing I'm like not in that good of shape. And I play sports year round. I eat pretty healthy, and I'm realizing like slowly, like I'm just regressing. Like I can't run as far. Like even the most out of shape friends I have that don't play sports were like, "Dude, keep up," on the pickup games. And so that was like my first major symptom, was the exercise intolerance due to the tachycardia. But I didn't know it at the time. It was all kind of happening. And at the time I thought, oh, maybe it's a hormone thing. Like, is my testosterone fine? So I'm seeing endocrinologists, and then I start to develop brain fog. Like I remember reading a homework assignment, and I'm like having to keep reread it. And I was a really high performer in school until, the brain fog started to hit. I'm like, why is it taking me so long to understand what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so, I saw my general practitioner, who I gotten plenty of arguments with. I was definitely a victim of medical gaslighting, because he ran blood work, and it's like, look, you're young, you're fine, you're still in sports, so how bad could it really be? Even though I'm still dealing with, like, at the time, pretty bad fatigue, and that's still one of those symptoms I really battle. But the brain fog, fatigue, and just small things that were always discredited, like discoloration of the limbs. He's like, it's allergy season, it's hot out, you're dehydrated. And so I would go from, I tried a few primary cares until I finally had a friend who was a doctor, an allergist, and he said, yeah, this is actually pretty unusual. You should go to Mayo Clinic in Arizona. Yeah, because I'm from Fresno, California. I moved to Arizona recently, about a year ago, because I loved it so much, having come here to visit Mayo. Nice. And they immediately, because I saw these, I forgot the exact department, but there's a department for rare disease diagnostics. And the second I saw the doctor there, she knew what was going on, because apparently, it's rare for primary care patient or providers to see POTS, relatively rare. Sure. But for her, she sees all these undiagnosed conditions, and she immediately knew, we need to get you on a tilt table test. And at the time I took it, I didn't really know what it was testing, but the way it works is you lay in this kind of this flat table, and they hook up all your vitals, so blood pressure, heart rate. They're doing like some sweat testing. Yeah. They just slowly incline you as the table raises. They measure your vitals, and so the most people, as it raises, your blood pressure should be relatively stable, and then your heart rate raises to compensate for some of the different like blood pooling that happens normally, but then it should come back down to normal. For POTS patients, it just keeps rising until it hits like an uncomfortably high level and just stays there. And when I took that test, I didn't really know what was happening, but it honestly felt like torture, because they're not bringing you up right 90 degrees. It's like slightly below 90, And so it is a stressful position, even kind of for the average person.
Yeah.
I was taking it, I'm like, I don't know what this is testing, but I know I'm failing this. And I didn't know at the time it was the POTS test, but I'm
Yeah.
like, whatever that just tested, I definitely failed that test. And I got a call
Well,
like the day after that, and they're like, hey, have you heard of POTS? Like, you did the tilt table and you have a very clear case.
and you, like, when you say tilt table, you're talking about they brought your head was up, right? It wasn't, you weren't upside down. It was,
No.
you
So
were,
the entire table, yeah, I wasn't upside down. The entire table, you
okay.
start vertical, and your head, like, you slowly start to raise, and they
Oh,
leave
okay.
you
Okay.
right there, about like 80 degrees.
I was gonna say, because upside down would be uncomfortable for anybody. I mean, come on. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure I had the right picture. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but there were
Wow.
uncomfortable things as well for autonomic testing. There was I'm forgetting the name, but you basically blow into this thing as hard as you can, and then like
Mhm.
hold your breath, and there's all these sorts of things they're measuring when you do that. But yeah, the
Wow.
POTS test, I immediately failed, and I was like, that was honestly like a very high point in my life, because I'm like, finally I have a test that I know is going to show something.
Yeah. No, that's exactly, because I know, I know there's some people out there that are like, you don't need a diagnosis or whatever, like, why do you need a diagnosis so bad? But when you're struggling with something and you don't know what it is, and then you get that diagnosis and it matches and it makes sense, and you go, oh, that's what I've been doing, what I've been feeling. It's so freeing, right?
Oh
Because
yeah,
then you're like, okay, now we have a path forward.
yeah.
Right.
I follow some chronic disease subreddits, and there's a lot of memes related to like the worst news you can hear is like all tests came back normal, even though for most people that's like so the best news to hear, right? You're healthy, but
Yeah.
for the chronic disease, you're like, great, I just wasted time on another test, and like I still have issues, but it didn't tell me anything.
Oh, oh, totally. Yeah. I can relate at some level with that. Yeah, there was a time in October of 2021 where, yeah, I was in the hospital for about a week, and I swear I rode all the rides that week. They had me on, between, I think I had multiple x-rays, CT, uh MRI, what's the other one? Ultrasound, all kind. I mean, and of course they couldn't figure out anything, and so the last resort was, hey, why don't we do exploratory neurosurgery? So yeah, you just kind of, you're like, so when you don't know what it is, it's kind of weird. Yeah, and so when they said exploratory neurosurgery, believe it or not, I was actually relieved. I was like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that'll tell you something. Let's do it.
it's
But it's
interesting. Speaking of exploratory surgery, Ehlers-Danlos is a common comorbidity. With people with POTS often have this triad. It's mast cell activation, Ehlers-Danlos, and POTS, and there's some connection
yeah.
between connective tissue fragility and autonomic dysfunction. And so
Mhm.
I actually don't have Ehlers-Danlos. I did the genetic test for it. I have no joint hypermobility, but my skin is relatively stretchy, and I also have
Yeah.
had an injury called a Seymour fracture in my pinky, where a basketball hit the fingernail while I was growing. I was still like a teenager, and the nail bed went in between the growth plate. And at the time, I was like, this hurts, but I didn't do anything about it. So like a week or two later, I saw a doctor, and I'm like, hey, can you check it out? And he scans it and he's like, oh my God, this is a Seymour fracture, but we've never really seen one outside an ER, because for a nail bed to be in the growth plate, it hurt like really bad. But
Yeah.
I was so used to the gaslighting at the time. I was just like, okay, like I didn't even want to go in to just be told like it's a pinky sprain, so I didn't go in for
Right.
that. And anyways, they're like, we don't know what to do because we've only seen it in the ER. And so he went and presented my x-ray at some hand conference like a month later, and nobody there had seen it. And they all agreed, like, you can do exploratory surgery or just let it grow out and hope that the growth plate doesn't keep growing, because the nail bed is in the growth plate. And so there's still some disfiguration. And it's probably because of some Ehlers-Danlos related connective tissue issue or the
Yeah.
skin stretchiness, because it's a very rare injury to have a fingernail injury pushed into the growth plate.
Sure.
So I don't know how it relates, but they also recommended that exploratory surgery. And I said, I'll just let it grow out and see what happens. And luckily it stayed the same size and didn't keep growing, because that was a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in my case, I couldn't not do the surgery, but if for you, I'm glad you, I mean, because surgery is always a big deal and it's always a risk. So if you don't have to do it, don't, so good call. Good call.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a few minutes before we're going to go to our first break, but I just got to get this question out there. How did your experience with POTS? Like, I know you're really, you're in the world of healthcare and AI and stuff, and trying to, kind of dabbling in that or diving into that world. How did this experience with POTS, did that kind of fuel that fascination, that drive to do that? Or was this already kind of in the works and that just kind of pushed you further?
I've always been interested in biohacking. I didn't know at the time it was a term, but I was really into nootropics. So even at a young age, I was like, and I don't recommend this to anyone, but at like 10 years old, I'm taking all the different herbs for brain enhancement, energy, whatever. I just the idea of like upgrading my body. I'm like, if I can take something that makes me sharper, faster, smarter, whatever, I'm going to take it. And so at a young age, I was experimenting with those. And arguably, I mean, it's a whole separate conversation, but that might have led to my POTS because I have a twin who doesn't have it. And what did we really do differently? It might have been some of that stuff, but anyways, yes, I've always had the fascination for just health and wellness. And then when I started developing POTS symptoms, I was always relatively stubborn and doing my own research on my health anyways, that, I kind of just continue to do research, and the medical gaslighting just further pushed me to look to my own options. Like what can I actually do? Because these guys aren't working and they're not helping.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. No, I love it. And that actually, the gaslighting thing that reminded me of, I mean, I'm sure if we could do a Q&A with people watching right now, we'd be here for the rest of the day answering questions about medical gaslighting. I have had experience like that too in high school. When I was started about 16 and I started having these nasty headaches, and 2 years later, they finally did what I told them they needed to do 2 years prior, which was brain surgery to replace the shunt that I have that controls the condition I have. But for 2 years, they wouldn't listen. They said, no, that's not it. You're just a kid. What do you know? You're just, and I don't remember if that's what they said, but it was what it felt. What do you know? You're just a kid. Yeah. And then finally it was validated right after I graduated high school, and they did the surgery and everything turned out cool. But I bet there's stories out there from just about everybody, from either themselves or somebody they know. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big problem.
Yeah. I mean, you start adding up all the percentages of people that have a rare disease. Like it's not that rare because, POTS, the prevalence, I think, is about 1%. Even with COVID now, it's probably getting closer to 2%. Chronic fatigue, MS, like all the different invisible illnesses. I mean, it's way more common than people think. And POTS, for example, the average patient sees 7 doctors before they're diagnosed. I don't know if I'm running into the commercial break here, but it's good. For the doctor's perspective, a lot of times they see a patient present with fatigue or general symptoms. They're correct in saying, okay, hey, sleep it out, drink more water, like whatever. But unfortunately for the patient, it's like, when they're experiencing these symptoms and the doctor is right to say what he's saying, but it's still not the right answer. It's just a conundrum.
Yeah. I mean, it does when you don't know. See, this is the thing. And I've said this so much. I say this so often, but it's when a doctor, a surgeon, whatever their specialty is, graduates high school, graduates med school, or whatever their specialty is going to be. They graduate first day on the job. They got the white coat. They're on the floor. They're on the neuro floor or on the cardiac floor, whatever they're doing. That first day on the floor is their first day of their real education, because all the stuff they learned in med school is book knowledge, and it'll get you so far. But once you get in the hospitals and start dealing with real people with real variations of all these conditions you learned about in the textbook, that's when your education really starts. Yeah. And I feel like that's where the gaslighting comes in, is where people are like, no, that's not how it works. This is how it works. Well, that's what the textbook says.
Yeah. And this is just a generalization of what I found. But to me, the younger the doctors, actually, the less likely they were to gaslight, because I feel like there's some, I guess not ignorance, but some doctors are more receptive when they're younger, because the older doctors, they've seen so many cases, they feel like they've known it all. And this is like not true for every doctor, but it seems to be the older, more experienced, and especially the more credentialed doctors sometimes are the most arrogant and the most dismissive.
Yeah. And I don't, like, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here. We're not trying to say that doctors are terrible or anything, but it's just, maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. But it's true. I think you're right. The younger generation of MDs and specialties and surgeons and stuff, I think you're right. They're more open to more of this stuff, because over the last 20 years, more stuff has come to light, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right. So, well, hey, let's do that commercial break right now. I think this is a good spot. Let's go cut for a commercial or two, and we'll when we come back, don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're gonna be talking with Nick about AI in combination with healthcare and kind of how that can look and how it can be beneficial. I know a lot of people are freaked out with AI, but I'm telling you, this is cool. You don't want to miss it. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
Hey there. You know, every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hi everyone, I'm Andy.
And I'm Minna.
We're the hosts of Chronically Healthy Life.
Join us Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time on Vitality TV to see how we flip the idea of chronic on its head and create chronic health in our bodies, minds, finances, and relationships right here on E360 TV.
Hey everybody, just before we bring Nick back, I want to talk to you about our good friends in Portland, Oregon, Brett and Molly Pryor, and they run an amazing place called The Porch Coffee. The Porch Coffee is a space that was created. They created this space for communities to converge. That was the whole point. A space where you can show up and be seen. It's a nonprofit that seeks to provide training and opportunity to those who are, sometimes overlooked in society. You know who I'm talking about, right? Not the normal folks that you would see working at a coffee shop, but they are amazing. It's such a wonderful place. Coffee is such a cool vessel that crosses all bounds, and it enables people to preserve dignity, through the act of generous hospitality and building a relationship with your neighbors. And so that's what they do at The Porch. And you can be a part of that whole thing, that whole journey and that whole story by going to their website, theporchcoffeepdx.com, scanning the QR code. I made it super easy for you. No excuses. Get your phone out, scan the QR code. And I'm telling you, here's a couple of bags of the coffee right here. I'm almost out, by the way, Brett, Molly, I need more. So it's delicious. I'm such a coffee nerd. I'm kind of a coffee snob. So and this stuff is amazing. And so they roast it, they ship it, it goes to your door, you drink it, it's delicious. So anyway, check it out. I'm looking forward to, I want to hear what you think though. Let me know. And so, yeah. Okay. Let's bring Nick back on here and hit the ground running with the rest of what we're talking about here. Nick, thanks again for being here, man. This is so cool. And this is a topic that I don't think a lot of people are necessarily hear about every day, with the AI and the healthcare and POTS too. I mean, I know POTS is gaining, like people are finding out about it and people are starting to figure out what it is, but I don't feel like it's been around. It's been like in the news, so to speak, for very long. Like,
Yeah.
Like, how long do you think it's been less than 10 years that people have been like, oh yeah, POTS, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's again like not that rare. But
No.
I think like long COVID is often associated with POTS, and so it's kind of getting a lot of attention recently. There's also like kind of a whole trend of people using some chronic illnesses for like clout, whether it's faking a POTS diagnosis or it's a whole separate discussion. But there's definitely been some TikTokers that kind of get a lot of views with pots, and they talk about it, and people are interested, and so that's been good for us. More eyes on us,
Exactly. Totally. So speaking of pots, how did your experience, battle, whatever you want to call it, with pots inspire you to be kind of the tech innovator and entrepreneur, especially in a field like AI or in personal health? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I've always been a tinkerer, a builder. Maybe I don't know if you call it an engineer, but from a young age, I was more physical. I never had coded like at a young age. I wasn't like one of those prodigies that had like, I don't know, some crazy app or software that did really well. I was building physical products or things. For example, when I was young, my locker in my school would open when I walked up to it because it's Arduino that it would connect to from my phone and just pop my locker open. And so just like small things like that, I'd just be building with my hands. And then I realized like to really build things when you're kind of fatigued and bedbound, like you don't have the energy to go get the screwdriver and whatever, you got to be building on your computer. And so that kind of like, because I was a builder and I was just kind of on my computer and just a nerd, I started messing around with OpenAI. I got beta access, which honestly, that alone, getting access to OpenAI is the parent company of ChatGPT. I got access into their beta developer platform way before any of like my friends or established people I knew that were in the computer science field. I hit the lottery because building on that was what made me realize its potential so early. I'm like, at the time before GPT-4, before ChatGPT, there was just DaVinci was their smartest language model that was awful. It was actually racist, which is because it was trained on internet data. It had no safety mechanisms. So because it was just going through Reddit, 4chan, whatever, and it's simply trying to predict the next word. These language models, they really don't know what they're saying, and they're trying to mimic the data set they're trained on. And if you give it bad training data, you're going to get bad responses. But ignoring that flaw, which I was hoping would be fixed, I saw its potential to answer complex queries in any form of the question, even with grammatical errors. I saw like huge potential, and so I was building on it on a really young age, and I actually had a symptom checker back in 2021, 2020. Built on the DaVinci engine, and my friends that were in computer science, and I had like no background in this, were like, holy crap, how did you build this? This is so impressive. Like how it's giving, even though it's not accurate diagnostics at the time, it was certainly interesting that it was headed in the right direction. So that alone, getting early access into OpenAI was like a pivotal moment because that's kind of landed me a whole new career, really.
Yeah. Well, and you wrote a book too, right? Elevate Your Health with AI, right? So in that book, tell, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Tell us what the book is about and how it could help.
Yeah, the book is how to use AI to improve your health, but more specifically these chatbots. And I didn't specify ChatGPT, which looking back, I might have wanted to, because multiple competitors, they're going back and forth with who's the leading model. MedGemini is Google's healthcare model that isn't publicly available. It's slightly better than GPT-4, but these models, they all just kind of balance for first place. And so I didn't include ChatGPT, but really the book is how to use ChatGPT like models to actually improve your own health. Because like I said earlier, with the racism, there are issues, and that's long gone. That's been completely.
I would hope so.
Yeah. But the same underlying mechanics of how the AI works is still existent in these newer, smarter models. And so knowing how to fix those problems with the earlier models, they still apply on how to prompt it correctly to avoid hallucinations, to avoid misinformation. So the quality of your response and the output that these AIs give you are heavily dependent on the input you give it. So giving it correct prompts, it's called prompt engineering, will heavily actually impact the usefulness of the model. So the book is both on how to get useful responses and then what you can actually do with these models to work on your own health.
Nice. I love that. And so if people scan the QR code or go to your website, the book is right there.
Yeah.
And they can just order it. They go to Amazon, I imagine, too, or can they just, it's probably best to just order it from your website, right?
So yeah, the website just links to Amazon.
Okay.
That's probably the easiest place to get it.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. So that I'm still kind of letting that soak in a little bit because it still kind of blew my mind what that book is about. But get the book, guys. That's really cool. I'm gonna have to order it too, so I can kind of dive into that a little bit, because everybody's using AI for something now. You may as well be using it for, like you said. Was this before the show when we were just chatting, or did you say it after we started filming that it's the side by side comparison? That's what it was, like between doctors' diagnoses and the AI are pretty close, or they're almost.
Yeah. In fact, almost every one of them have actually been beaten by GPT-4 when they're given side-by-side competitions. Specifically, they've been studied for rare complex diseases, which I actually link on my site. If you go to elevatewithyourhealth.com, there's a whole section about GPT-4's performance. And a lot of the studies there are side-by-side comparisons of the differential diagnoses provided by doctors. In fact, not only did it do better than doctors in many cases, they even gave doctors web search capabilities. So they were like, hey, you're allowed to use Google and come up with your list of diagnoses, and GPT-4 still beat that. So even giving Google to a doctor and giving them some time, the GPT-4 differential diagnosis still outperformed them. And so that's one way of like evaluating the usefulness of GPT-4 in medicine. And so I have a blog post where I kind of expand on this, but it's hard to say, okay, is it smarter than a doctor? Because like, what does that mean? Sure, its differential diagnoses capabilities are, slightly better when you do side by side, but what about when you ask it about a medication or a gene? So it's really hard to say, oh, are these models smarter than a doctor? But what we can look at is the side-by-side competitions between differential diagnoses. There's other medical benchmarks. There's something called the United States Medical Licensing Examination. It's a multiple choice test that they gave ChatGPT, and it performed phenomenally. But it's still hard to concretely say, oh, these are smarter than a doctor. Is doctor smarter than them? Because it's like, how do you measure intelligence? And so, and again, it very much depends on what you're asking the model to do and how you ask it and what information you give it. So I give a lot of tips on how to work with these in the book. But if you want me to expand on a few of my favorite here, I could just go for it.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, the one thing that I kind of just want to throw out there, though, is like I don't think anything will ever replace doctors completely. Like, I don't think this is the aim. I don't think that's your goal, right? You're not trying to like, oh, we don't need doctors now. We have AI. I don't think that's the goal. But I think this is correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to I don't want to put words in your mouth, but am I correct in saying that maybe this is just a tool that could be like side by side, like the patient and the doctor could both be more informed this way, kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'm hoping doctors adopt these systems inside their own practice. So there's something called a clinical decision support system. And these are softwares that doctors should be using already, because there's already some good ones out there. But they're they're systems that are used to give doctors, a better advantage over, just Googling something. So I don't know if you've ever been in the office, which I have, and you mention a symptom or a drug, and they're like Googling it, and you're like, wait a second, are you really Googling like that drug right now? Is that the most accurate way to do this? But there are systems that they should be adopting that actually have differential diagnose help. They have information about drugs, pathways, whatever. One of them is called Up to Date, and they're big softwares, but it'll be interesting how insulted doctors might be by these systems that maybe kind of stepping on their toes a bit, where it provides something different than what their own opinion is. And now they're like, why would I pay for this? It's kind of contradicting me. So I'm hoping that there are clinical decision support systems that use AI. One of them is Glass Health. They're a great company. They use GPT-4. Yeah. And so I'm hoping doctors adopt them. And I think eventually they'll have to, because the benefit will be so obvious how much it helps. But there will be a window where it's like, these models are clearly smarter, but a lot of doctors aren't using them. So it's like, how much do we trust them? How much? There's gonna be some gray area. And I always recommend trusting your doctor over somebody, just kind of Googling their symptoms, ChatGPT in their system. Mm-hmm. But it will be inevitable that these models are much smarter than doctors. I mean, it's only a matter of time. And if they choose to use them or don't, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's going to totally replace them either, but it's almost like a tool that they'd be crazy not to be using, because it could only make their job better and potentially easier to diagnose things, right? I mean, it seems like it would be a no-brainer, but
there's specialties that it'll clearly help, radiology.
Oh, yeah.
Specialties that it might be much harder. I mean, dermatology, some of the more physical specialties. I mean, even vets. I mean, that's just. I mean, I don't know how an AI is gonna, pick up a cat or whatever they got to do. So,
yeah.
But certainly, like neurology, I think some of the more invisible illness ones actually have the biggest potential.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, no, totally. So if you encountered somebody that has, say, some sort of invisible condition that they are overwhelmed by, and they're like, I don't know what to do. And it's a slow process of going through the traditional healthcare system to get the diagnosis. Like you said, an average of 7 doctors, 7 different places to go before you get diagnosed. What would be the first thing you would tell them to be like, here's what I can do to help you?
Yeah. So one of the tips in the book is asking it to ask you questions, because a lot of things you don't know what to ask, like what it can do, what it should be, kind of what direction to go in. So if I was like going back to my high school self and I had ChatGPT 4 and I could just tell myself how to use it and what to do with it, I would say, give it your full medical history. So all your symptoms, all the doctor's opinions that you've already seen. So you'd say, I'm presenting with fatigue. I can't run. I have brain fog. Say what the doctors have tested and ruled out. So the doctors have already done this test and ruled it out. You want to give it the full context of your situation. Because if you just say, I have fatigue, and what do I do? It's going to give you a very generic response. So the more context you can give it, including the information that your doctors have already kind of told you or confirmed or ruled out, the more context in the prompt. And then you could say, I don't really know where to go. What would be my next steps? Ask me more questions maybe to help you guide me along the process. And so what it'll do is maybe you forgot to include your age or your demographics, or maybe a symptom that it's like, hey, do you present exercise intolerance while standing? And so it'll actually work with you. So besides giving it the full context of your medical history and your situation, I would ask it to kind of ask you questions. Like, can you ask me some follow-up questions to clarify things? And it will ask relevant questions to eliminate things or guide you on your process. And so both using it for diagnostics, if you haven't had official diagnosis, you're still like, what do I have going on? It can help you rule out conditions or help you at least look into new conditions. And it's really an educational tool at this point. So just giving you the, hey, check out POTS, like read more about it on Google, or like, here are the symptoms. Like, do you feel like you relate to this? So it's just a very quick way to access personalized information.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like it might be beneficial to do that even before you go to it. Cause it might even, if you say, this is what I'm feeling, and you're detailed enough and you get a good informed answer, that might save you time and money from saving you to have to go to those 7 doctors, right? You could say, why don't I narrow it down first? And then maybe you go to that, if it's whatever condition, and you go to that specialist first, that might save you a lot of time and money too.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So it can even print out. I mean, not that you should like print out the ChatGPT response and bring in like, hey doctor, look at this, what ChatGPT said. But I mean, you could use it to make notes of your own patient history and say, here's the symptoms I present with, and you could have it create the technical terms for it. So when I said, I struggle to run, it might rephrase that as you're experiencing exercise intolerance. So now it kind of helps you formalize what's going on with you and actually explain your symptoms better. And so now you give this to your doctor, a printed out thing that you kind of made yourself of all the technical like things of what's actually going on. So doctor might look at that and say, oh, this guy actually knows what he's talking about, and he came prepared, and he's already looked into these, whatever. And yeah, that's one of the 1,000 ways that it can really be used to help. And I think that the biggest benefit is honestly rare disease diagnostics. I think that's where it's like a very clear performance metric that's been proven to do well in. But there's so many use cases for people that already have chronic diseases, how to use it to find medications, compare side effects, look for, different providers in the state or that maybe specialize in that. It's really just Google 2.0.
Well, I mean, who couldn't use that, right? That's actually pretty cool. So yeah, I love it. That's there's not gonna be enough hours in the day now. I'm gonna be diving into that, man, and checking it out now. I can't wait. And I'm not even like wondering about a condition or anything. I just want to go play around and see what it's capable of. That's so cool.
I highly recommend everyone download it and start using it now, because the people that are unfamiliar with its capabilities they're kind of going to be left behind. It's like people that didn't want to use a calculator and they're doing things by hand or a computer and Excel, and it's like, hey, there's a better way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I shouldn't say that. There's probably a vast majority of people that understand that now. There 10, 20 years ago, maybe it was like, yeah, whatever, that's never going to last. But I think now we all know this is here to stay, and it probably wouldn't hurt for you to familiarize yourself with a little bit, because it might be beneficial. Even if it's you can love it or hate it, it's here. So yeah, well, hey, I think we're at a good spot to take our last commercial break here. Let's do that. I'll put that QR code back up there when we come back. Don't worry, you'll still be able to reach out to Nick and get his book and learn about everything he's doing. But I'm going to take it down for now, and then we will see you on the other side of the break. And when we come back, I want to talk more about. I mean, we're going to talk a little more about POTS, and we're going to talk a little more about just Nick and kind of what's been going on. And yeah, so stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a couple minutes.
In a world where office workers typically receive 130 daily emails and have an 8-second attention span, CoreCentrica, with her 4 decades of international marketing experience, has partnered with the Learning Code Institute and their 30 years of neuroscientific research. Together, we are crafting unique messaging strategies that resonate, connect, and ultimately convert our target audiences. CoreCentrica, where award-winning creativity and disruptive neuroscience come together. Scan this code now, or call and click, and let us show you how CoreCentrica's partnership with the Learning Code Institute is influencing how businesses connect with their audience, foster engagement, and achieve conversions.
The Club eFit Home Portable Gym System is a groundbreaking new system that can help everyone at any fitness level. You can be the happy, fit person you always wanted to be, and Club eFit can make that happen by helping you get the body you deserve in the time you can spare. With workouts ranging from cardio, core, to total body toning, it's easy to get started. Start taking care of you today. To make the change, go to clubefit.com now.
Hi, I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine. Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stockham, and I'm host of Simply Sarah. Join me Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific on the Achieve TV network for the best energetic tools to elevate your amazing life right here on E360 TV.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're talking to Nick, and this has been a mind-blowing hour so far for me, because I am not in this realm normally, but it's been pretty cool. I'm going to put that QR code back up there real quick so I don't forget. There we go. And I've got a question. I got 2 questions for you, but the first question, I'll get to the second one in a second. But one thing occurred to me while we were at the commercial break, and with anything AI, or, especially with medical histories and all that kind of stuff, security and privacy and all that kind of stuff is like huge, right? Like nobody wants their stuff out there. Nobody wants to have their information stolen. Nobody, their medical history is theirs, right? So if they're dabbling in this and figuring out diagnoses and, getting all this information, is like, how secure are you doing that?
It's a good question. Yeah, it is a common concern for people. So within ChatGPT, there are different settings to turn off if you're wanting to be more private. there's training history. So if you just put in whatever information you do to ChatGPT, it's going to be used as training data. That's how they offer it free. They're kind of data farming. So the first one to turn off would be, having your information trained on. There's also different memory settings to turn off, but the most secure way is actually to just use it through their API, which is why you either need to sign up as a developer or use an alternative open source model. So I guess there's always level to privacy, like how anonymous do you want to be? I recommend for most people just turning off the setting for memory and training data. You just Google this, or ask ChatGPT, how do I make this as secure and private as possible within the app? But then there are levels to it. If you want to be even more secure and private than that, look into the API, look into open source models. Together AI is an easy one to host Llama 3 or to use Llama 3, which is the leading open source model. But the quality of its replies are going to be not as good as GPT-4.
Okay, that's good to know, man. Because I mean, being in and out of the hospital over the last 10 years, more than I ever thought I ever would be. You see how much stuff gets written down and recorded about your medical history, and I wouldn't want mine out on the internet just for anybody to just peruse, So it's nice to know that there are things you can do to, put the stop to that if you want to, or for the most part. So, well, I've got another question for you, and it's got more to do with with POTS, and I know that's I mean it can be rough, let's be real, POTS can be kind of a nightmare some days, and so on those days, when you're kind of like, okay, this too shall pass, hopefully tomorrow will be better. In those rough days, how do you find hope?
Yeah, it's a good question. I turned it straight to AI. No, kind of only partially joking. Like today, I was actually you saw my head down because I was just looking at what chats have I used today. I'm going through my ChatGPT app that would be relevant that I could bring up. So I was experiencing fatigue as a common symptom. And so I was looking into, a friend had recently mentioned, she does marathons, and she was looking into cordyceps as a supplement to improve aerobic capacity. And so I was curious, how does cordyceps improve aerobic capacity? And I was just going back and forth with it, learning about how it upregulates ATP production and how other supplements that are similar. So I was kind of just learning, okay, so if the cordyceps works for aerobic activity, what might help my fatigue? What's causing my fatigue? What are different pathways or reasons for it? Is it is it a viral issue, which I had antibodies for HHV6? Is it a mitochondria issue with low ATP production? And so not only was I reading into different treatments and understanding how they work, but then I'm kind of referencing that back to okay, what have I already kind of done? And that gives me insights into my specific case. Nice. And so, yeah, I literally talked to ChatGPT. Just today, I have at least 30 threads open, and a thread might have 10 or 20, messages. So I talk to this, honestly, just more than I talk to most people. But I really do think everyone should be very familiar with it. I have a shortcut on my phone where just clicking this, it opens the ChatGPT app. So I'm plugged in within seconds.
Nice. I'm not saying that would not be valuable, but it just sounds, I'm not there yet. So it sounds really crazy to me when you say that, but it's wow, that's a lot. But I'm just not there yet. But that's great. That's awesome. Whatever works for you, So,
yeah, and I highly recommend their app. Also, they have a MacBook desktop app, and the reason being is the app has this little microphone button that you can just speak to it, or you can just phone call it. If you call it, it'll actually respond like a human. But the phone call or the microphone transcription feature, where you can just rant to it. Some of my rants have been 10 minutes long, so the prompt I give it are literally essays, because I want it to have as much relevant information as the situation requires. And so if I were to type that out, it would take me 30 minutes. But so some of my prompts, they're literally entire pages, because that's what's, like I said, the more information you give it, the more accurate its response will be given its relevant information.
True. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I hadn't thought about that, but it's true. You can just information download, man. Just unload on it, and it can take it. I promise everybody, it can take it.
Yeah.
So no, that's awesome. So people, if people are looking for your book, I mean, that sounds like a phenomenal book, phenomenal resource for people to get in their hands. so if they click on that or scan the QR code or enter the web address, where is your book in there? How do they find it?
Oh, it's very clear button on the homepage, and then in the navigation as well. It's like buy now. But honestly, reach out on LinkedIn to me. I'll put my LinkedIn in the website. I don't think it's there. If you have a reason not to afford the book or any, because I know people with chronic disease, a lot of them are on disability, just message me and I'll just give the book for free. I really didn't want this to be a moneymaker. In fact, the only reason it's $10, $11 is because if it was any cheaper, I think people would find it discrediting. Like, oh, why is it a $2 book? Like, is this legit? So,
no, anyway, you're right. Yeah.
No, message me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'll put my socials in the website, Elevate Your Health, and so I'll just give the book to anyone who needs it.
Awesome. Well, if you want to, you know what, you can put your LinkedIn in the private chat right there, and I can just put it on the screen here in a minute if you want.
Oh yeah.
And then people can do it that way, and of course, everybody, it'll be in the in the show notes on Facebook, YouTube, and E360 TV. We'll put that in there as well, so that you can reach out to them, because the way easier the better. So yep, there we go. Awesome. I'll work on that. But yeah, so what we've got about 4 minutes left, man, and we're done. Fastest hour of the day, I know. But what do you want to leave everybody with? Whether it's something about, with your condition or something with AI, like what's the last thing you want to leave everybody with?
There's so many things, but I think being your own advocate is like so important, especially for people with invisible illnesses. It's if you're not an advocate for yourself, and you don't have family members that push for you like I had, AI can kind of help give you back that confidence, because a lot of people, they don't have the medical knowledge to the doctor will say something and you kind of believe it, even if it's true. A lot of times, most times it is true, but always, if you're ever feeling insecure or you feeling like a symptom is valid or a condition or something is wrong, a second opinion on a treatment they're recommending or a drug they're really pushing, ChatGPT is an advocate. It's certainly a useful one now, and it will in the future almost be not infallible, but as time goes on, they will just become smarter and smarter. And so you use it as a second opinion. Always go back and lean back to your doctor. But it is very empowering, and the more you work with it, the smarter you become with it, honestly, because you realize its potential, and then it becomes smarter because you're asking it the right questions now. So it's like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, that's the kind of the coolest part. It's almost the scary part, but it's the cool part too. Because it's getting smarter. So I know movies have not done a very good job of making that appealing. Every time you see a movie about technology getting smarter, it turns out poorly. But it can be a good thing. And so, and you have been using it as a good thing, and it's been making your life easier and better. And you've been able to find things about your condition that you never would have found.
Yep.
Right. If you hadn't, and that's made your life better. So to be able to do it that way. So it's pretty awesome. So, well, there's the LinkedIn, by the way. I've had it up there for a little bit there. I know it's kind of a long, it's, Nicholas John Harris. I guess if you just type that into the search, you'll find it, but there's the address right there. Reach out and we can go that route. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah. Maybe don't search it though, because I have some privacy settings on where I don't think it'll show up. So
okay. Okay, yeah. That's smart.
I got my ChatGPT history and memory off, and I got my LinkedIn settings as private as it could make it. So
that's probably good. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. So okay. Well, there you go. There it is. And is that on your website too, or is your social media stuff on there, or not?
I'll put it on there. I'm not sure if it's on there yet, but it will be by the time.
Okay. And we'll have it. We'll have it on the notes on the episode and stuff. So it'll be good. So, yeah, awesome. Well, hey, Nick, I'm still kind of blown away. It's going to take me a minute for all this to soak in, but I'm so excited that we got to do this and that we were able to spotlight what you're doing and get the word out. And, thank you for being here and being so willing to be open and share what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I couldn't honestly think of a more relevant TV show to be on, because when I saw a tagline, it's not all in your head, I'm like, that's like, I just resonate so well with that. So
totally, it's a thing. That's why it's the tagline, because so many people relate to it. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So thank you. We might have to talk about having you on again so we can kind of explore this a little more, and maybe go through the book a little closer next time or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But
I didn't even get to speak on the genomics startup I'm working on. So
see,
thing to talk about.
See? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Listen, if you heard it, you heard it here. We'll probably need to have him on again. It might be a little bit down the road, but we'll definitely talk about it so we can get into that too, because that's a big deal. So, all right, for today, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being on, and I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody. Man, yeah, geez, you know what? We talked about that before we did the show. I totally we both kind of spaced it. So we will probably have him on again, because that's some good stuff he wants to talk about. So, all right, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. If you're watching on a social media platform, like, share, subscribe, all the things, so that you know when our next episode is on, every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Thank you for being here. Join us for our next show on Tuesday, July 16th. And until then, we will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day.